How you doing? You're listening to Cathal Irwin here of advsafety.com. Today we're just reviewing our Chukka boot, standard Chukka boot. The Chukka boot is probably one of the oldest safety boots out there. It's probably become, let's say, one of the most copied. There's so many variations of it, but the standard Chukka boot is this type of boot. Generally, a Chukka boot is an entry-level boot. It is a price point boot. And what I mean by price point boot is it's probably the most economic boot in the safety range. You shouldn't be paying over 20 euros. You should be paying 20 euros or less, or a fair bit, substantially less, for a Chukka boot. Okay, so what makes a Chukka boot? A Chukka boot. They have a steel toe cap, steel plate in the sole. They're S1P. S1P means that it has a steel plate in the sole and has a toe cap, a 200 joule toe cap, but it is in no way waterproof, and that would be the case, or water resistant. So, who can use a Chukka boot? Chukka boot can be used by anyone. Okay, so what makes a Chukka boot a Chukka boot? I'll just review some of the information on it. Okay, it's buffalo leather, so in fact it's a good hard quality leather. I suppose the downside of it, it's because the sole is, I'm not exactly sure the type of plastic the sole is made of, but if you look at it, it's quite rigid. I wouldn't like to be walking in it all day, every day. But there's definitely a market for them, and we do sell them out there, and that's the type of business they are. Let's look at the insole. I always like to look at the insole because it gives me a good guide to what not a bad insole, a foam insole. I've seen worse insoles in deer boots. So it's a foam insole. There's obviously, the lining is quite basic in it. So you can see it again, it's just a nylon lining. You know, you can't expect to get a long life out of a Chukka boot because of the price point that they're at. They're an entry-level boot. They do what they say in the tin. They're not the most comfortable boot, but they're not a bad boot in fairness. You can see there's good quality stitching on them. But again, yeah, they are what they say in the tin. So who can wear a Chukka boot? Anyone who's basically required to wear a safety boot can wear a Chukka boot. If you work outdoors, you can wear a Chukka boot, which might be wet. If you work in a factory, you can wear a Chukka boot. The one thing I would say is, I wouldn't like to be standing on one all day, and I wouldn't like to be walking around in one all day. If it was my choice, if I was given it, I would try and maybe look for an alternative. But again, they're a price point boot, and there is definitely a marketplace for them. One of the most common old safety boots, but if you look at them, what's good and what's bad about it? Okay, this type of boot, unfortunately, I can see more bad than good, but that's maybe my opinion. I might have a slight bit of bias. And this is not this brand, this is just this category as a whole. What's good and what's bad about it? Okay, let's start off what's good. The price is bang on. So if you have, let's say, transient staff where you have to supply a safety boot and they're not going to be with you that long, Chukka boot is perfect for that. It's not going to break the bank, and you're fulfilling your safety needs. Again, there's a steel toe cap, a steel mid plate. It's well stitched on the side, good hard wearing buffalo hide leather. What's bad about it? It's not the prettiest. I don't like this type of leather. Very rigid sole, metal toe cap, steel mid plate. Not the longest hard wearing, not the most comfortable, not waterproof, not the prettiest. So in my opinion, there's more negatives than positives, but again, it's like everything, it has its place in the market. You're listening to Cathal Irwin of advsafety.com, and thanks for listening. If you have any comments, please click on the link below and it'll bring you to our Facebook page where you can post a comment on it. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me, but we'd love to hear your comments. Thanks very much for listening. Bye-bye.